Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. I want to tell you that I've realized something today. I've had a tough week. I was telling you about my son was in a car accident. We also are having our kitchen redone, so we have no kitchen. And my washing machine broke, and the man who came to fix it actually broke another part while he was fixing it. So we've had no washing machine for about a week and a half. Now, it doesn't seem like a big deal, really. It's not, a crisis or anything. But it's just that nothing's really, getting done. But that's okay. That's okay. I realized that these are small things and these are first world problems, you can say. And I have really good friends. This morning, a friend surprised me. I was at the pool 6:30 in the morning, and she walked over to my station and hand-delivered me chalot with candies all around. Another friend who knows what's going on told me I can use her car. And another friend is making rice. And another friend is making soup. And my kids are embarrassed, they don't want anyone to help us. They don't want anyone to feel sorry for us. And I have to explain to them, these are friends. They're, doing this because they want to. I didn't ask. Don't feel like I asked. And, oh, yeah, Mom. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Really, people are really good here. And wherever you go in Israel, even if you feel alone because you don't have family like us, if you make friends, 1, 2, 3 friends, you won't ever really be alone. And when you need help and when things aren't going well, you don't really have to ask for anything. You just talk out your problems, and I wasn't really expecting anyone to do anything because I have, a store here and I can buy frozen schnitzel and we do have a barbecue that works and I was going to be fine. But how nice that people are helping. It's so nice that they step in and just kind of relieve me a little. And if it's happening to me, it will for sure happen to you. And even though, I'm not native and I'm not Israeli, they consider me one of them. They do. I'm really not, but they know me and they've seen me, I guess, struggle. And they've watched my children grow and they've watched me and Jordan, deal with life here. And I guess everyone out here is kind of dealing with life too. Just because you're Israeli doesn't mean you've got it all together.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski, and we are speaking today with a new friend of mine living down here in Har Hebron. Her name is Rikki Farkas. She is American. I heard her speaking at the pool a couple of weeks ago, and I got all excited because I saw her, and I thought, that's my new friend. So, Rikki, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
There aren't so many newcomers down here, and I understand you've hopped around a little bit first. So why don't you tell us how long you've been in Israel and what you've gone through, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so we made Aliyah in July 2014, and we made Aliyah from Lakewood, New Jersey. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and my husband's from Belgium. And we made Aliyah to Netanya for one only reason is that we had a free apartment and we had no jobs, so that was like a good place to crash.
Okay. Okay, so you came to Israel, you had an available apartment because you're very lucky, and you have, parents? One of you have parents that had an apartment here?
Yeah, my husband's mother had a Yerusha from her mother, and so there was an empty apartment. They never put any tenants in.
What does that mean?
And so we didn't have to,
when you say Yerusha?
Well, her parents lived there. They died, and then she inherited the apartment, but she still lives in Belgium. So it was an apartment that just was empty in Israel, in Netanya. So they let us stay there. So we had free rent. Even the bills were tied to her account. So it's kind of like God gave us like an easy start because we had no jobs. We came. I sold my house in Brooklyn, and then my husband gave that money to someone who was in debt, and we never saw that money ever again. So basically, I was a few months in Israel, and then we became penniless. So I did have an apartment. I had no furniture, no nothing, because we didn't even take a lift because it didn't pay for us to, we were debating, should we take a $6,000 lift like everybody does and bring all our belongings, or should we go to Israel with less headache, with nothing, since we were going to a furnished apartment. So we chose to sell everything in America, and we came just with our suitcases. But we had our house. And after we sold our house, and then all the money that we made kind of just disappeared. My husband gave it to a family member, and that's it. So I was 2 months in Israel, and we were penniless. No jobs. We had the Sal Klita at that point, which was like 6,000 shekel a month, which kept us, slow down,
because whenever you speak Hebrew, we got to translate to Hebrew. So the Sal Klita, for those listening, is like your basket of rights. Okay, good.
Right. So we had that.
But listen a second, Rikki. This is 6 years ago. You're I don't know how old you are, 30s, I guess. How old? You had children with you?
I had 2 kids, yes. My daughter was in 1st grade, and my son was 10 years old. I don't remember, Kita Hey, 5th grade or 4th grade. I don't remember.
All right.
And it's just that God took care of us, even though we were penniless. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, you weren't.
Everything worked out. He prepared an apartment.
You had a free apartment. That's not penniless. That's not penniless.
No, the apartment didn't belong to us. We had where to crash. Yeah. I know. 100%. And then when it was time to move after a year, we moved to Beit Shemesh. I had to get, how it is in Israel. You have to move to apartment. It's kind of empty. There's no refrigerator. There's no, you have to bring all your stuff. And even after that, a month we were there with nothing. And we just got a whole entire furnished apartment. Like, it just happened, I kind of feel like when you live in Israel and Hashem just takes care of you no matter what. Like, I don't know if these things would happen to us in America.
Let's slow down, Rikki, because we don't want to give people the wrong impression. That is not 100% true. You cannot come here and sit on the ground and people will and God will take care of you. It's not true. This is a real country. People have real problems. People do have to work. People do get in car accidents. There is crime. Okay, it is a real country. So,
no, what I meant was when God takes away your stuff, I didn't take away our money. He took it away. Then he provides. If he does that to you, then he provides. I don't mean to come here with no, to come here just with, your bags. You understand what you understand what I mean? Not to come here just with bags. It happened to have been that we lost our belongings by by nothing that we did. It happened. Sometimes things happen to people.
Right.
And because it happened to us, God got us out of it. Okay. That's what I mean. But you could
I'm sure you made some decisions along the way. Okay? Let's, give yourself a little credit.
Right.
Nothing just happens. It's so funny. Really, nothing just happens. There are a series of steps and a series of choices that we all make. And it's true. God gives us like the choices and maybe like the brains to see the choices, but we have to
Correct.
We have to put one foot in front of the other and hopefully choose the right one, and so hopefully he'll help us make the right one. So go on. So you moved to Beit Shemesh.
We moved to Beit Shemesh, and it was really amazing for my son. Really a good change for him. The schools were way more tuned to him. He needed some American-speaking boys. We got him into a very good school. He made friends. It's not that Netanya wasn't good for him. It's not. It's just that the environment is different in Netanya. It's more French. It's more Israeli. There is a great big American community, but they're 65 and over. So kind of for a family with young children, Beit Shemesh was a better choice.
Okay, good.
So Netanya was our first landing spot just to crash. It wasn't where we were planning on staying. And so we moved to Beit Shemesh.
Great.
And we moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh Gimel. It was very, very, the rent there was very reasonable. We had a beautiful apartment. I felt like I lived just as good as I did in America. Brand new, 2 sinks, you name it, spacious, 2-floor, and very cheap rent.
Okay.
And we loved it, and you always are able to find your crowd. Even in Netanya, we found people to hang out with. Wherever you're going to go, you're going to meet people like-minded. You're going to meet people that are from your past. It's not like you're going to a new place in a new environment that you're going to have to try to fit in. You are going to find people, like you. Wherever you go, wherever you are on this planet, you will find friends.
Especially
it's not something
Israel.
that you have to, and it's not something that you have to plan out. Like, where should I go where I'll fit in? Wherever you go, you'll fit in.
Well, I'm glad you said that.
And that's how I felt. In Netanya, we fit in, and in Beit Shemesh, and now where I moved here in Hebron, we also fit in.
Okay.
So that's like one thing that people are so scared to do, to make a change, because they're afraid they're not going to be able to have their support system or their friends that they are used to. And it's just something that it's really an illusion. It doesn't really, I don't believe it exists, because you could find anybody wherever you are.
Good. Very good to say that.
So we were in Beit Shemesh.
But slow down, Rikki, slow down. I want to know.
Okay.
You came here, you had no
Sure.
jobs. You said you were penniless, you had a free apartment, you didn't have to do it. Now, I don't know what you did before in America. Why don't you tell us what you did before, and then what you did when you came here? Because you don't just get another beautiful apartment in Beit Shemesh without paying for it or doing something. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so literally when the 6 months of the Sal Klita that Israel gives is over, they give it for you for 6 months. The last month in the 6th month, then my husband found a job, and his klita, how do you call the person who helps you? I forgot the word for it in English.
Counselor, I guess. Absorption counselor?
Yeah, the counselor was so helpful. She helped him find his job, and he found a job in Netanya. So we were there. So after the 6 months, my husband found a job, and then we moved to Beit Shemesh. So he didn't have. He kept the job in Netanya, so he commuted. So that was difficult. It was about 3 months that he commuted, and then God did something good to him. They fired him because he couldn't make the hours. It was way too hard. For a few months, he was on unemployment, and then he found his job that he was at for 4 years. He worked for a publishing house, a publishing company, and he was there for about 4 years. And then we moved to Hebron, and right now he's on unemployment again because of Corona.
Right. So you didn't live in Hebron, though. You live in Ma'ale Hever.
Right, but it's considered like Hebron or
okay. It's nothing
Hebron,
like
right?
Tiveret.
Hebron
It is nothing like Hebron. Let's make that loud and clear. It is nothing like Hebron. So
right.
Really, describe where you live. For real.
The people in Hebron call this Hebron Heights, and it's true because we live on a huge mountain. It's a yishuv, a small yishuv, about 86 families. And I'm from Brooklyn, so it feels like I'm in a bungalow colony. For anybody out there who knows about in New York State how all the Jewish people go up to bungalow colonies in the summer, that's exactly what I live in, and it's like year round. Beautiful views of the Dead Sea. We are living on the boundary between Judean hills, Hare Yehuda and Midbar Yehuda. So we kind of have the topography of the desert and Judean hills. So it's kind of like a mixture, and it's really beautiful.
Okay. Slow down. Because wait a second. Listen. I know what that means, but our listeners don't. So when you say the topography of the Hebron Hill, I mean, I know exactly where, because you live right, you're my neighbor.
Right.
But a couple shows ago, some of the listeners will remember I was describing how now the mountains out here are brown, covered with thorns, and all you see are rocks. And I used to even make a joke every night for dinner. My kids would say, "What are we having for dinner, Mommy?" And I would say, "Rocks and dirt," and because that's all you see. And it still happens because I am not the most prepared homemaker. I am not the most prepared mother. I don't exactly do well in the kitchen. Anyway, we'll be right back.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things. But at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
The return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel was prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago and is coming true today. Shalom. Join me, Josh Wander, on Israel Unplugged. Listen in as we delve into the spiritual and physical aspects of the Jewish return to Zion. We'll discuss the biblically mandated, historic, and of course practical understandings of this incredible transition from exile to redemption. That's Israel Unplugged, every Monday on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Modesty at the beach? It isn't just about body image. It's about feeling good. Modest swimsuits, so we don't get burned by the sun.
So we won't get ogled by strangers.
So we'll feel free to express ourselves without the need to expose ourselves.
Let Marcy Modest help you to cover up what you want, how you want.
Made in Israel.
Visit marcymodest.com. That's MARSEA modest.com.
And get a 10% discount on your first purchase.
We're back to returning home, and we are speaking today with someone I just recently met. I'm actually friends with his wife. His name is Jonathan Feldman. I believe, Jonathan, you're a rabbi, but I want you to talk about your Aliyah. I understand you've been here for 2 years.
Thank you. Great to be here. We
just had what is called a hafsakat chashmal in my yishuv in Susia. For all of those who are listening, that's a power outage. And I don't know if that happens in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Jonathan. Does that happen?
Once in a while, not that often.
Okay, so it happens here fairly regularly, and everything stops. Your lights go off, your refrigerator goes off, the internet goes off. So you just have to, wait. This happens often out here because there's a lot of building. Even in Ramat Beit Shemesh, there's a lot of building, I understand.
It's going on right now, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So we're patient, and you do learn patience when you live here. Tell me about you. Tell me about your Aliyah story, and share some inspiration with us today.
Hi, Natalie. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. So we made Aliyah 2 years ago. When we visited Israel and we'd come here, every time we went back, my wife would say, "Why are we going back?" And we did have reasons to go back. I had an elderly father and I was the sole caregiver, and we were doing community work in New York. We were working with young adults on the Upper East Side of Manhattan doing Jewish outreach work. We were doing important work, and were doing it kind of on behalf of the Jewish people. But over the years, it was in the back of our minds, it was always there. And after 25 years in the rabbinate and 17 years of doing that outreach work on the Upper East Side, we finally felt like it was time to come home. Mm-hmm. And also, our children were getting older, and we felt that if they were young adults, in other words, if they were no longer teenagers, young adults, and they came to Israel to study, came back to the States, that we would never make it to Israel.
Right.
So it's kind of like now or never.
Uh-huh.
It's not advised. The ideal is to come before they're in first grade. But one was 11 and one was 16. And we had a son graduating high school. We actually waited till he graduated high school, assuming he would come to the branch of his yeshiva in Israel. He had other plans, and he actually is in the States, as is our oldest daughter. So we have 2 kids here, and the 2 in the States are now above 18 years old. So they're adults.
Wow.
They make their decisions.
Yeah, they do. They do. And is that hard? I mean, 18.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Yeah, of course it's hard. Yeah, it is. But we also think we could be living in New York and they could be in California or Australia or
right. You're right.
Saskahanta.
That's right. And it happens. In America, it really does happen. People go all over. Maybe they'll come here. I mean, you're here.
Yeah. I have friends whose parents made Aliyah and none of their kids were in Israel. That does exist too.
Yeah.
But the ideal is to come before they're in first grade.
Okay.
That's the way to do it.
Okay. So if you can't, then you come when you can. You come later. That's all. You just come and you make it work.
And it was actually just in time because my in-laws made Aliyah with us. Thank God. And 2 years later, if we'd waited, they probably wouldn't have been able to make Aliyah for health reasons and other things. Okay. So there was a window and we jumped.
Good. You jumped. Now, I want you to say that loud and clear. He jumped, people. I was speaking to someone yesterday. We'll have him on the show, another friend of mine. And a lot of the reasons people don't come, they get comfortable and they don't want to take like a jump, a risk. It is a little bit of a change, and people get comfortable in their life, secure.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Even though we all see that things are changing. They are changing. I mean, there's no blinder you can wear that is thick enough to hide what's going on with the political situation and even the coronavirus, and things are topsy-turvy. So if there wasn't a window before, there certainly is now. What do you think about that?
So we left right before the shooting in Pittsburgh happened, and then Poway happened, and it's interesting that, and then of course now COVID, and Manhattan, where we were living, of course, is in upheaval. So we kind of viewed like we came here, and then everything kind of like upended itself. Of course, many people do say that the reason to make Aliyah is not because, things are getting bad here, let me bail. Aliyah is a decision to make, a proactive decision to make, a positive decision to make, because we believe this is the homeland of our people, and these are some of the reasons we came, because we want to be in the center of the course of Jewish history.
Right.
So, someone I'm close to here, he made Aliyah years ago, he pointed out something interesting. He said, in 100 years, what will be the significance of the American Jewish community in the flow of Jewish history?
None.
It'll be, we think about, in Germany there were Jews and community flourished, in Poland there were Jews and community flourished, but Israel is where the future of the Jewish people is. This is where it is. And there's also the feeling that, everyone here is building together. In the States, when crises happen, people are aware of each other. They run to the store, they hoard this and that. And here you feel like if things got tough, people would band together and share everything.
They do.
Not try and grab everything they can.
That's right. They do.
And that's an unbelievable feeling that, you get into toughs with people sometimes, but ultimately, if push came to shove, everyone here would be behind each other.
That's right.
And the strongest reason to come here is because, the Ramban says, Nachmani says, this is the palace of the king. This is where we can feel close to the Almighty. It's so clear from the Torah that this is, Israel has a heightened level of Kedusha, of spiritual connection that is unique. And so there's so many positive reasons to make Aliyah. So
well, those are religious.
That's what.
Those are religious. Now, for people who are religious, who believe and who are learned, okay, that is to me crystal clear, and I don't understand why they're going to synagogue and observing all the mitzvot outside of Israel. So that's one population, and that is a very significant population, but it's small. Most Jews in North America are secular, and they don't know that this is the palace of the king, and they don't know the word Kedusha. They don't know. They see Israel as a country, a Jewish country. Now, what do you say to people like that? Because those are most of the Jews.
So the United States is a little different than the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, Jews feel like, yes, maybe I'm in France, I might be a French Jew, but am I really French? No, I'm not. And so coming to a country where the holidays are the Jewish holidays, and a country where you're a majority really makes a difference. In America, the Jewish community is so large, the pockets are so big, or Jews are so well integrated that those factors aren't as strong unless you value Jewish peoplehood. But what we're also seeing, I work in Tel Aviv with young adults who, most of whom have made Aliyah. And what's so interesting is that there is a significant portion of them who are not religiously observant, but who came to Israel for a number of reasons. Some, they came on a birthright trip and they fell in love with Israel, with the energy, the people, and decided to make Aliyah. Some of them, it's an adventure. Some of them, it's a beautiful place to live. Tel Aviv, where else do you find a major world-class city on the ocean? And for others, the job opportunities, especially in the high-tech sectors, pharma, have a lot to offer. And we don't realize it, but if you're a young person, you want to just go live abroad, you can't go anywhere and just get a job. You need work permits, you need visas. So in Israel, if you qualify for Aliyah, you don't even have to make Aliyah. You can apply for a work permit. I just wrote a letter confirming the Jewish identity of someone who she's been living here. She's getting her work permit. And so she can move and work here. So that also for young people is something that's attractive.
Right.
So there are many reasons why people are drawn here, move here, and want to be here.
Right. So we're getting those people. And tell me a little bit, if you can, what did you do before? You said you were involved in Jewish outreach in Manhattan. And tell me what both of you did, and how you made the transition, the leap, the jump here in your. You're an adult. You're not some 20-year-old. Okay. You obviously had a career. You're living up in Manhattan. You can't be poor. So tell me that, because I want our listeners to hear. Not everybody has to have everything lined up in advance. And I don't know if you did or you didn't. So tell me that process, because that's a big concern people have, Parnasa.
So I was working at Manhattan Jewish Experience, doing outreach work, as I mentioned, with young adults, in Jewish identity. On college, people connect to Hillel, and they can kind of connect to Jewish community that way. And when they get married, they think about, okay, what synagogue am I going to join? Where am I going to send my kids to Hebrew school or Jewish preschool? But between college and young adulthood, there's really a gap of how do they connect. So we were building Jewish community.
All right, slow down if you don't mind,
for
Jonathan.
Young adults.
Yeah, slow down a second. This is very funny. This is a phenomenon that does not exist everywhere. You're speaking about a gap of how long? 2 years between college and young adulthood. When you're in college, you're a young adult.
Well, I'm saying between college and when people get married. So that's often 10, it might be 10, 15 years.
Okay. In Manhattan, it may be 10, but here in Israel, where I live, there is no gap. No gap at all.
It's a different
Those
world.
kids get married in 1920. This is hilarious. So listen to this, people. If you want a reason to move to Israel and you're like in your 20s, you just heard it.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobaker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on The Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. This is your host, Natalie Sapinski, and we're speaking today with Yael Julanov. We spoke with Yael a few weeks ago as she was starting the process of Aliyah, and she told us all the paperwork and the hurdles she had to jump through being a Russian-born American. It's been, I guess, 3 weeks, right, Yael? Maybe 4 weeks since we spoke?
Yes, that's right. Thank you for having me back on the show. It's still been very interesting. You know, moving to Eretz Yisrael, it always keeps you on your toes.
Well, you know, once you're here, it keeps you on your toes too. Don't think that's going to go away.
Yeah, I figure.
Okay, so tell me where things are holding for you, and also before you get into that, I want to share with our listeners that Yael told me that she has, I think, 3 children, and some of them have special needs. And we were speaking about preparing for coming here and how in Israel it may not be the same as in the U.S. and even better here in some ways. And the different research and the different things the parents should do to prepare for their special needs child. And if Yael, if you could go into that with us a little bit, what you've done, what you've learned, I think that would be great.
Sure, no problem. So 3 of them have some issues. The first 2, they're on the spectrum, but they've made a lot of progress. My 3rd child, he just has some speech issue. You know, articulation is the main issue. So language comes into play a lot. When we're thinking about making Aliyah, we're thinking, okay, so this isn't just about throw them in the classroom with, 30 other Israeli kids and they'll pick it up. It's not like that.
All right, good. That's important to say. Zezi told us that last week. Kids, every kid is different, and you can't just come to Israel exactly like you said. Oh, they'll be okay. I've seen. You can argue it both ways. I mean, I guess it depends on the child, depends on the family, depends on a lot of things, right? So tell me what. Keep going. Tell me what you've learned. Tell me what you advise. Tell me what you're doing. And before that, even where are you in the process? I mean, you don't have a date yet, right?
I don't have a date yet, just because everything changed with the pandemic. The rules changed. The availability to get things done has changed. Everything has just turned into like an extra special balagan. They want. From my husband, they want another 2 background checks because the law is that they want anywhere where a person from 14 and on, if they have lived in any country for a year, they want a background check from that country. So if you have been an adventurous person throughout your life, and then you want to make Aliyah, you're going to need a lot of background checks. Yeah, my husband left Uzbekistan when he was 24, so he needs a background check from there. Mm-hmm. And then he was in Moscow Yeshiva for 4 years, so now he needs a background check from there as well. And, oh my goodness. And then we're both Americans, citizens here, so we have these background checks as well, and these expire in 6 months.
All right. So this is a bureaucratic pain in the you-know-what.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that's what it is. That's what it is. And anyone who is an adult living in modern times knows there's bureaucracy for many, many things. Okay. And you just put one foot in front of the other, give them what they want, and move on, and you'll do it. I'm confident you'll do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now talk to me about the more challenging part is your children. Now, I don't have special needs children, okay? I do have a kid who had a lisp, and I have a girl who's a little doesn't behave so well. Okay, I don't call that special needs, but even those two kids of mine had, and here in Israel, we've been in Israel their whole life, had it was great, like there are special things for them. One of them had a tutor, and one of them had speech therapy, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And one of them got horseback riding lessons. Okay, there's a great system here. So I hope you are checking it out. So tell me what you've learned.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. Initially, I was overwhelmed, and I thought, "What's going on here? Why are they asking me for all these things?" So, I spoke with an educational coordinator just because I was getting really lost. Do you hear me?
Yeah. What's an educational coordinator, and who are they? Where are they? What does that even mean?
An educational coordinator helps you navigate the system, even in Israel.
How did you find this person?
So Nefesh B'Nefesh helped me here.
Good.
When I was telling them how difficult it was for me, my advisor said Nefesh B'Nefesh will pay for 2 hours of time with an educational coordinator, and they will help you navigate or start at least. And then if you want, you can continue with that coordinator or look for somebody else. The option is open. So I spoke with someone by the name of Hannah's wife, and she was telling me that, okay, so you need neurologist reports, you need a neuropsychological evaluation, and my head was just spinning because here in the States, you don't need all that to get services. So in Israel, they want, first of all, a lot of paperwork. They want.
All right. So let me just slow you down because I live here and I've had to get things done too.
Yeah, it is different because you're already there. When you're coming in, this transfer is different.
All right. So what's important though is that you have an educational coordinator. I want everyone listening who has the same or a similar situation, school-age children who are considered special needs, go to Nefesh B'Nefesh and tell them you need help getting these special needs, you want services for your child, you want an educational coordinator. That is great.
Yes, it's a must. You have a special needs child, any sort of special needs, you need that educational coordinator.
Okay. And then they tell you all this business you have to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
And every situation is probably different.
Yes and no. I mean, they'll tell you to get all of your paperwork in order.
A bunch of different evaluations, it sounds like.
Yeah, they want the neurologist report. They want a neuropsychological evaluation. Here in the States, they don't tell you to get that because they have the Board of Education do that. But on the side, I'm telling you that if you want your child to have better services, you're better off finding a neuropsychologist who will test your child at length. And then based on that documentation, you can actually get more of what your child needs opposed to what they just want to give you.
Sure.
So there's a serious upside in doing that. The other thing is that sometimes maybe they ask for this paperwork to be translated. I haven't even gotten to that part. It really depends.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is when you finally get to, I guess, Israel, they'll hold a special meeting for you, and then they'll also evaluate your child and then take their evaluation and then the evaluations that you brought in and put all that together and find the best placement. One thing I really love is that I realized that there's so much conversation and so much testing because they really, really want to help your kid thrive.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Yes, I think it's really amazing that they have so many options.
I'm telling you, I remember I used to have these meetings for my one boy, and he was a dreamer. Okay, so they wanted him to be put on Ritalin, and I said, I'm not really into that. I was not so great, I kind of was a dreamer too. And they would have these meetings with me, and I remember like all the people sitting around about my one child who isn't a problem or anything. And I would say to them, like, this is so nice of you to give so much attention to him. I really don't think he needs it. He just, his mind wanders, and, that's not so unusual. But thank you, they really do. You're right. They care. They care.
They really care. Yeah, they really, really care. So some people might find that care is a little stifling, and, the American thing is kind of like, don't tell me what to do. So
yes, you don't have to take their advice.
Okay, that's something that our listeners need to know.
Yes, they wanted my kid to take Ritalin. I said, no, thank you. Oh, but all our kids take it. That's nice. We don't. I said, over and over, they told me this. It was hilarious. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. For years. Yes, it is true that the teachers here, and maybe teachers in America too, I don't know, want their job to be easy.
Yes.
And they want their children to be controlled. Well, sorry, being a teacher is tough. And if my kid is kind of dreaming and, it's not I'm not going to medicate him to make your job easier.
Exactly.
I'm a lifeguard at the pool. Some of these kids are wild. What, you think I hold them underwater? I mean, you have to be creative.
Exactly. So
you're going to find also, I don't know what school you're going to, but I know if you're going to Beit Shemesh, there are lots of schools.
Yes.
We don't have like that, but even our one school is apparently a very good one. And they have animals, they have a petting zoo here. They have computers. They have music, and there are 3 instruments you're allowed to play. They're like, whatever teachers, they have cello, they have clarinet, and I believe they have guitar. They have cooking. They have art. They have baseball. They have tennis. One year I was a Zumba teacher, and so the girls in 8th grade and 7th grade got to do Zumba. It's amazing to me that they have so many choices. I did not have choices like that in school at all.
Yeah, neither did I.
Right.
Yeah, and I've been to public school and Orthodox Jewish schools, and let me tell you, yeah, we don't get any of that, which is why it's really, really surprising that Israel is such a small country yet has so many options. It's mind-boggling.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great, and your children will find something that they're good at. Everybody finds something sooner or later, and they'll be fine. I mean, wait till they go to yeshiva. My 2 boys go to a music yeshiva. It's called Kinor David in Ateret, North Benjamin. I love this place. It's a music school. It's basically a music school. It's like music camp.
Wow.
Okay, it's amazing. It is amazing. They're all musicians. They all have private lessons. There are, practice rooms. They record. They perform. And they have a regular learning. I mean, those kids are busy, really busy, playing and performing and theory. And I mean, not like bad music. It's very high level. There's one for girls. There's an environmental yeshiva. You just wait. I mean, you think there are a lot of choices now? Wait till they get to go to yeshiva.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.